The surgical management of an intumescent cataract can pose challenges at all different steps of the surgery. In the following video, I will attempt to share with you the key pointers that actually help you get consistently good results. Let's now move to the phacoemulsification of this patient who presented with an intumescent cataract. You must take utmost care while creating both the main incision as well as the two paracentesis incisions. And why it is most important is because you do not want to be struggling with negotiating instruments through an incision that might be too small. Neither do you want a very wide incision which can result in a leaky side port that can result in a constant shallowing of the anterior chamber with the problems that come with that. I like to stain the anterior capsule by injecting an air bubble into the anterior chamber, followed by the introduction of a few drops of blue dye under the air bubble onto the anterior capsule. This allows me to achieve a very uniform staining of the anterior capsule. It is imperative that you do have a uniform staining of the anterior capsule to aid visibility whilst performing the capsulorrhexis. I'd like to now highlight the importance of always using a cohesive viscoelastic prior to performing the rhexis. It is extremely important to use this because it actually enables a flattening of the anterior capsule and gives you so much more control while performing the capsulorrhexis. Now here are the pointers while creating your rhexis. You've understood that you need to use a cohesive viscoelastic each and every time. Please note how the tear from its inception is always circular. There's no point that could possibly go out towards the periphery. I first start with making a small circular rhexis. Having achieved that, I now decompress the capsular bag by washing out some of the cortical material from within the bag with the help of a blunt-tipped cannula. A nick is now created in this circular opening. It's held with intraocular forceps and the circular opening is now enlarged to give you a capsulorrhexis of about 5 to 5.5 millimeters, which is what you require for phacoemulsification. You must always ensure that you have clear visibility of the tearing edge. In order to do so, you make sure that the overlying flap is always moved away because you do not want to hamper visibility while performing your capsulorrhexis. Performing a hydrodissection is not required in such a case, since quite a bit of the intumescent fluid has been washed out of the capsular bag. You already do have a significantly mobile nucleus. Let's move to the emulsification of the nucleus itself. The technique that you will see is one of a direct chop. That's one short way of reducing the energy delivered into the eye because you no longer need to sculpt. The other thing you need to understand is that even though it is a white cataract, it is a soft white cataract. So the energy required is not much. You require an energy of about 30%. You require a good vacuum of about 300 millimeters of mercury and a good flow rate of about 34 to 38 cc per minute, which allow for good followability. Whilst performing the direct chop procedure, the energy is delivered into the eye only when you impale into the nucleus whilst breaking down the fragments into smaller fragments and during actual emulsification of the fragments itself. After achieving a breakdown of the nucleus into its smaller emulsifiable fragments, the surgeon then re-insufflates viscoelastic into the anterior chamber to protect the endothelium. Now each fragment is brought up turn by turn after holding it in foot pedal 2, impaling into it with a little bit of energy in foot pedal 3 and bringing it up again in the aspiration mode before it is emulsified. It is broken down if required into smaller pieces prior to its emulsification. I perform this technique, which is a chop and stuff, wherein I break down the fragments and try and emulsify the nucleus only using the vacuum and the flow. That is, the foot pedal remains in position 2, which is the aspiration mode, and I just nudge the fragments into the tip. The intermittent introduction of viscoelastic during the nucleus emulsification serves to protect the corneal endothelium. Please note how the emulsification of the nucleus happens at the level of the pupillary plane. The further away you are from the corneal endothelium, the less the damage to the endothelium. So learn how to emulsify the nucleus in the pupillary plane. In this manner, the emulsification of all the nucleus fragments is completed. Upon the completion of the nuclear emulsification, the surgeon one last time performs a viscofluid exchange. Once the cortical aspiration is completed, you will see the hydro-implantation of the foldable IOL in the capsular bag. Once this is done, the minimum amount of viscoelastic that has gone in along with the injecting of the IOL is removed, followed by the stromal hydration, which completes the surgery.